makakusap natin si Justice Undersecretary Deo Marco. Usec Marco, magandang gabi po at salamat for joining us tonight.
Magandang gabi po, Sir Ed. Magandang gabi yan, sa inyong mga tagapakinig.
Well, sir, of course, I have to tell you, maraming salamat po for joining us tonight. I know this is it's already late night, but you still joined us. But sir, let me start off with this. I suppose what really marked that interview for a lot of people were the words used by Usec Badoy. Ang sabi ni Usec Badoy kasi, the interview was supposed to honor and vindicate the general because of the trumped-up charges against him. This is coming from the Communications Undersecretary addressed to somebody who was convicted already. I'm wondering how the DOJ looks at those words.
Yun po yun, Sir Ed, no? Kasi when you are applying when you're requesting for a PDL to be interviewed, nakalagay po doon yung purposes ng pag-interview, ano yung mga topics to be tackled, sino yung mga mag-i-interview. Right now, we don't have the paper o yung dokumento showing the request. No? So that's what we're looking at. Kanina po nanggaling po ako sa DOJ, ay sa Bucor. Tinanong ko po sila kung ano yung pangyayari. At ang nasabi po sa akin ni Usec Usec, nag-request na po pala ang SMNI as early as December last year for that interview. No? Hindi po kami nabigyan ng copy ng request na yun. It appears that the request was directed to the Director General of Bucor. No? Hindi po nakarating sa amin ni Secretary yan. And ngayon po, bumalik na po kasi sa Alert Level 1, kaya po napagbigyan po ito ni Director General. Yan po ang sinabi sa akin ni Usec Usec. But as to the details, kung ano po yung nakasaad doon sa request, ano po yung purposes for the request, hindi pa po namin nakukuha ito. Isusumita po nila ito sa amin next week. At doon po magsisimula ang aming formal investigation or inquiry. Sa amin po yung nangyari kanina, inalam ko lang po first-hand, face-to-face kung ano po yung nangyari.
Yes,
yun lamang po nangyari kanina, Sir Ed.
Yes, sir. Mayan.
Yes, Usec, ang tanong ko lamang po, protocol, basic lamang po. Pwede ho palang ma-interview ang isang taong nasa kulungan? Ano ho ang protocol para dito? Siyempre, of course,
Mamaya, I'm very sorry,
yes.
But yung voice niyo po is very faint, no? Hindi ko marinig. Sorry. Parang echo lang.
Alright.
I'm very sorry po.
Sige, I'll try
Can you say that
ask
again
you
po?
again. Oo. Sir, yung protocol
Hello?
lang po, pwede ho bang mag-interview talaga ng taong nasa
Hello?
kulungan? Ano po ang protocol? Kailangan lang ho ba? Basta may consent yung i-interviewin, pwede na?
Hello. Yan. Okay.
You hear me, sir?
Yan. Very clear na po.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Okay.
let me translate for Mayan. Mayan is asking po kung ano yung protocol as far as interviews with convicts are concerned. Ano po yung
okay.
patakaran?
Okay. That's a very good question. So the first step would be to write a letter, no? Formal letter yan. Either addressed to the Department of Justice or to the Bucor. After that, kung i-relay po namin yan, kung sa amin po pinadala sa DOJ, papadala po namin yan sa Bucor for their comment. Ang gagawin naman po ng Bucor, ang first thing that we will have to do is ask the interviewee, kung sino po yung PDL na interviewin, kung magbibigay po siya ng pahintulot or consent. That's the most important thing here. Kung may consent po yung PDL na interviewin. Kapag nagbigay po ng consent itong PDL, ngayon papupunta naman po yung bola sa Bucor. The Director General or the Superintendent will now have to assess kung matuloy ba itong interview na ito. Will this bring danger to anyone? Magiging disadvantageous pa to? Yun po, it's a case-to-case basis depending on the topic to be discussed, depending on the personalities involved. So case-to-case basis po yan. Ang Bucor or the Superintendent is given quite a big latitude in making a decision on whether or not this should proceed. Although may nakalagay naman po na rules, no? May mga certain rules. Like for example, if the interviewer refuses o ayaw niya sumunod doon sa patakaran naman ng Bucor, hindi matutuloy ang interview. Kung ang interviewee naman ay may sakit, mentally incapacitated, there's a pending case against him, marami pong mga exceptions dyan na magbibigay rason para sa Bucor to deny the request.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's really
Sir.
up to the superintendent. Yes po, Ma'am Mayan.
Bok
Go
and
ahead.
Usec, may follow-up lang ako. Well, obviously, may consent si Usec Palparan, si Palparan dito sa interview na ito. Pero sabi nyo kanina, kailangan ipaalam dun sa letter, ano yung magiging topic. So, naisabi po ba dun sa topic na this is for, yun nga, sabi ni Sir Bok kanina, vindication para sa mga nagawa niya. And nasabi rin po ba dun sa letter, nangaabot ng 2 oras po yung interview sa kanya?
Yun po yung kanina inalam ko, no? Pero ang sabi po sa akin ng Bucor, they will be complying with my directive that they will be submitting their report, formal report, written report on Monday. Kasi isasama na po nila as attachment yung whatever formal or written request coming from SMNI at kung ano pa pong mga circumstances that happened prior to the interview. So magsisimula po yung formal inquiry or review namin by Monday once we receive the papers, the documents from Bucor po.
Yes, sir. Sir, I suppose what it boils down to is who has the authority to grant permission for the interview. Given nga na payag naman yung convict, pwede bang yung Bucor superintendent ang siya lang magde-decide na pwede, or does it have to go get approval from DOJ or the courts?
Okay, the usual practice po, no, before, ever since po talaga, is to write a letter and then it will be the superintendent because he would be in the best position to determine kung safe ba na ituloy yung interview. It's going to be the superintendent. In the Bucor Prison Manual, nakalagay po doon na kapag ang i-interviewin ay NPP, PDL, or PDL from CIW. Ang CIW po kasi is in Mandaluyong, ang NDP naman ay in Muntinlupa. Nasa NCR lang po sila. There's a requirement that there should be a prior approval or favorable recommendation from the Director General and an approval from the Department of Justice. Ang nakikita ko pong reason dito ay since nasa NCR lang naman sila, it won't be hard, no, to get that approval. But because of the 2013 RA 10575 law, ang nangyari po dito, this is a law that strengthens the Bucor. In effect, we can look at it as a law that strengthens the powers or gave more authority to the Director General of the Bucor, making him more parang autonomous. No? Hindi naman autonomous, but mas marami siyang power ngayon. And nabawasan po yung power ng Department of Justice and nalimit po yung power namin to administrative supervision. Ang ibig sabihin po nun, we cannot interfere sa day-to-day operation ng Bucor. Ang pag-approve po on whether or not a request for an interview ng PDL, I think we share the same thoughts, no, kami ni Secretary, na it's an operational matter, it's a day-to-day operation, and the DG would be in the best position to make that decision. So, ang tingin po namin, that's why the Director General granted the request without even telling us. Ganun po yung nangyari, no? He had the belief na because of RA 10575, he had the authority by himself to make that decision. Yun po yung tingin po namin nangyari. But that's initially lang po. Right now, we are just gathering facts and evidence po, and we will report. We'll come up with a report after po namin makuha yung mga dokumento. Sir Ed.
Okay, sir. Sir, my last question is this: whether or not you think it was appropriate for your colleague from the communications department to say that the interview was a vindication of Jovito Palparan and that he was jailed on trumped-up charges, considering that he was already convicted by court.
Sir, if I hope you don't mind me, siguro I would like to just reserve my opinion on that. No, I would just stick to the facts and to the legalities. No, as to whether or not it was proper or not, hindi po kasi part yun ng mandate ko as given to me by the Secretary. As to whether or not it was proper, kung meron naman pong may na-aggrieve na tao doon sa ginawa na interview, there are available legal remedies naman po. They can just avail of those, but as far as I am concerned, ang gagawin ko lang po is to look at what happened, the factual circumstances, and check if it's compliant with what is written in the law. I hope you understand, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, of course, sir. We understand. Sir, my last question,
Thank
I suppose,
you.
unless
Thanks so much.
Mian has other questions, but my last question from my end, at least, would be this. So your investigation po would be to determine what then? Kasi if you're saying na may autonomy na yung Bucor to make decisions as to who is allowed to interview what personality who is in jail, then ano pa po yung kailangan yung alamin?
Okay, it's a very good question. Kasi po doon sa RA 10575, although our power was limited to just overseeing whether or not the Bucor is performing its mandate and doing everything according to law, na-reserve po doon specifically yung power for the Secretary to review, revise, modify any act by the Bucor when it comes to regulatory functions. Pwede po kasi makonsider na regulatory function itong nangyari, no, this matter, no. So, the thing is, the problem lang dito, tapos na po yung interview. Had we known about the request for the interview, baka pwede pa pong pumasok si Secretary and tell the Director General this might not be a very good idea. But since tapos na, so it's going to be moot and academic, at least pag nalaman po namin that there was a violation or whatever po, no, we could give a policy direction naman para sa Bucor for future. But again, I'm not limiting everything to what we know right now, no, kasi I have to see the documents that the Bucor will be submitting to us. And then after that, we will review it, I will submit it to the Secretary, and we'll ask for direction from the Secretary. So, yun po yung magiging benefit ng investigation or ng inquiry.
Okay.
Last question lang ako, Bok
Go ahead,
and
Bok.
Usec.
Go ahead.
Oo, last question from my part. Sir, I know you're still, yun nga, yung investigation is ongoing. I just want to know, may nasisilip ba tayong possible violation? Kasi tama nga, sabi ni Bok, is oversight na lang po kayo. Ang talagang may power na pala
Correct
to decide on that is the DG. Pero ang malinaw po ngayon is that oversight kayo, kailangan nyo pa rin pong malaman sana kung may mga
Correct.
ganitong interviews.
Yes.
At malinaw
Tama
na
po.
hindi nyo po alam. So may
Correct.
violation po ba doon?
Yun po yung titingnan namin, ano, kasi yun nga po nakalagay po doon sa manual nila na one reason for them to disallow the interview is if there's a pending case. So yun po yung isang tinitingnan namin, if there's a pending criminal case against Mr. Palparan, and then he made comments regarding that case. So yun po, no, that's one thing that we're looking at. But in the end po kasi yung authority, yung discretion po rests with the Director General. And if ever we see that there was a violation or maybe parang hindi tama po yung pag-approve nun, and then yun po yung malalaman natin after we get the facts straight, and then the Secretary would probably, I will have to wait for the Secretary to give his guidance to me, sir. Ma'am, basta right now fact-finding lang po ang ginagawa ko, and then we will report to you whatever will be the outcome of the DOJ review. Amen.
Okay.
So much, Usec. Go ahead, Bok.
Maraming salamat, Justice Undersecretary
Maraming-
Deo Marco. Thank you, sir.